Hey everybody, welcome back to your Fantasy Fix. I'm David Comer.
I'm Dave Herndon.
And today we're talking about receivers, and we're hoping to get you ready for your fantasy football draft so you can win one of these. And Dave, we're talking about receivers. Calvin Johnson, I think, is done as the number one overall, and who's probably the only guy worthy of a first-round pick.
I would almost argue you could warrant taking him in your top 10.
Probably top 7 or 8, to be honest.
Last year I did take him number one overall in one of my leagues. Didn't do me wrong, especially that first 5 weeks. But again, Calvin Johnson of my beloved Lions.
Yes, he's a slam dunk. Now for me, the next two spots, if you're in a league that combines tight ends with receivers, I really like Jimmy Graham and Rob Gronkowski. Really, you could just flip them, either one. Graham had more yards, Gronkowski had more touchdowns last year, but they're both basically the number one receivers in their offenses, arguably. And they're both playing pinball offenses where they get a million chances to catch the ball.
Well, that's especially it with Gronkowski. He's basically a short yardage running back that just gets the catches it 2 yards out instead of a pitch.
Right. So, but if you're going to throw the tight ends out, and I know you also have tight ends.
I do have a list of tight ends, and I would have put them both in my top 10, but I did kind of separate it out. I've got a separate list of tight ends. And they are my top 2 tight ends when we get down to it. But you look at the rest of my top 5 for receivers, you got Larry Fitzgerald.
Okay.
You can't miss with him. He hasn't had a bad year yet.
Hate the quarterback position, that team, but you have to take Fitzgerald pretty early.
Then I've got Wes Welker, especially if you're in a league where you get points per catch. Wes Welker is phenomenal. He's going to rack up the yards. He's going to rack up the catches. He doesn't score a lot, but you can deal with it if he's getting you 150 yards a week.
Right.
Roddy White with the Falcons, I am a little worried that he's going to have some yardage and catches stolen from him, but he's still, I do believe, the number one receiver in that offense and a top 5 receiver overall. Probably wouldn't take him before early 3rd round in a draft, though. And then rounding out the top 5, Andre Johnson from the Texans. If he stays healthy, he's easily one of the best receivers in the league.
He's your number 5 receiver?
Yeah.
Andre Johnson? For me, I go a little off the board. I've got Greg Jennings, my number 2 receiver. I really love that offense. I really think he missed a few games last year at the end of the season, which I think really helped Jordy Nelson pad his numbers. I think without a doubt, Greg Jennings is the number 1 receiver for the Packers. He's going to put up crazy numbers. After Jennings, I go Larry Fitzgerald. Again, I'm a little worried about John, don't call him a red skeleton, as well as I really don't like Kevin Cobb. He's done nothing to prove himself. And obviously Fitzgerald showed last year he doesn't need great quarterbacking to put up big numbers. At the same time, though, it was really hit and miss with his week to week with his production, just because he was so held back from that offense. Again, though, all world talent, you have to take him high regardless. Next up for me, rounding out, I think that would be number 5 for me. I like A.J. Green from the Bengals. He's all upside. Andy Dalton's really good. They don't really have a number 2 or 3 receivers per se. Jerome Simpson left for the Vikings. But I really like the needle's pointed up for him, and the sky's the limit. And the chemistry he showed with Dalton last year. I mean, they're only going to figure it out even more this year in their second season. So A.J. Green, I really like him as a high 3rd round pick maybe. And as the number 5 wideout on my list.
Moving along quickly, 6 through 10 on my list, and these guys are really interchangeable. They're all going to get you right about the same number of yards. They're all going to go 75 to 85 yards a week probably. They're going to get you maybe 8 to 12 touchdowns. I got A.J. Green with the Bengals. We're going with Victor Cruz with the Giants and Hakeem Nicks with the Giants. I think they're pretty much even receivers there. Where was I? Oh, Victor Cruz and Hakeem Nicks with the Giants. Got Mike Wallace with the Steelers. No, he's not dead, Mike Wallace. Unlike...
But he is holding out, although they say it might end soon.
I honestly think that he knows that offense well enough. A holdout isn't going to hurt him too much.
Okay.
The offense is basically the exact same thing it's been the last 3-4 years. Mm-hmm. There's not really a lot of changes there. And the other guy you got in there is Greg Jennings with the Packers.
So you like Jennings at 7, Cruz at 8, Wallace at 9, Nicks at 10?
That's the specific order I have them listed here, but they're really interchangeable anywhere.
Right. Well, for me at 6, Roddy White. I think Julio Jones is going to cannibalize some of his production I think his numbers are going to go down slightly, but he's a proven fantasy force every year. You still got to like him. Hakeem Nicks, kind of checking in around 7. I like Nicks. My one concern is Cruz. Nicks might not even be the best receiver on his team. Luckily, though, he's got a clean bill of health now. He's coming back strong. Again, Nicks is just so young. The offense is there. The upside is there. Around number 8, I go Andre Johnson, the old reliable. He's really got to clean it up and stay healthy one of these years. It's been a couple seasons now. But again, with a healthy Matt Schaub, Arian Foster now being established as truly a dominant force. I think, Johnson, if anyone forgets to cover him, he's going to kill him. And it really speaks for himself. He's just that good. I think you're looking at number 9. You go Mike Wallace from the Steelers. I'm not crazy about the situation in Pittsburgh. They've got kind of a rough offensive line. Roethlisberger seems to get beat up a lot. The running game is really a mixed bag. No one knows what's going to happen with Mendenhall on the mend for most of the year. And so you've got, Isaac Redmond carrying the mail. Maybe you've got, I forget his name, the guy from Georgia Tech, the third string back. It's going to be kind of weird to see what happens with the Steelers. But again, though, number 10, I think Wes Welker just barely edges out Brandon Marshall for me. Again, you just got to look at the offenses. Wes Welker's going to produce. And Brandon Marshall is not a lock to blow up in Chicago. He should do well with Cutler, kind of renewing their Denver love affair, where they both were rising stars. But it's, who knows with Brandon Marshall? You've also got to hope he stays out of the back of the squad car. So, who do you have checking in around 11, 12?
11 through 15, I got, Miles Austin down with the Cowboys. He's clearly the number 1.
Hamstring issues, though. A little worried about that. But you can't doubt the production when healthy.
You've got a second-tier fantasy quarterback in there, which is still very good. He's not quite the elite, but he's right there on the border.
Great offense, too.
You've got a fantastic offense, and he's the number 1 receiver. There's not a lot else you can say there. Same thing with Jordy Nelson. He plays in a fantastic offense. He may not be their number 1 receiver, but it's like 1 and 1A there with Jennings. Marquise Colston with the Saints coming in at 13. He's probably Drew Brees' second favorite target behind tight end. But you got Vincent Jackson down with the Bucks. He really impressed me last year. If the Bucks can develop a good passing game, he's going to be their number 1.
The bugaboo is health, but again, 6'4", 6'5", and he's got breakaway speed. He's pretty much the perfect package if he can just be consistent and stay healthy.
And then sneaking into the top 15, the always Mr. Reliable Steve Smith with the Panthers.
Had a huge comeback season last year. Yeah, I like that pick. For me, I'm just looking at, around Brandon Marshall. Obviously, I really like his potential in Chicago. In fact, they've upgraded the passing game with Alshon Jeffrey on the other side. Gone are the days of Devin Aramashadu and the rest of those scrubs that the Bears used to parade out there as receivers. Again, though, I really like the fact that, you've got Jay Cutler and there's chemistry. After Brandon Marshall, I'm looking at guys like Marcus Colston. The one thing with him, he does not get a lot of targets. But the thing is, you get bang for the buck when he does catch the ball because it's usually a big play.
Yeah, they're going to throw 4 balls at him, but 3 of them are going to go 20-plus yards.
Exactly. And another guy I really like in there is you're looking at Julio Jones, really on the upswing. And I think he may be even stealing a lot of looks from Roddy White this year. He closed last year out on a bang. And besides him, Des Bryant, if he stays, again, clear of the law and dealing, you've got to look at the suspension that may get handed down, see what happens there. But again, Des Bryant's in that mix as well. And lest I forget, in case I didn't mention him, Jordy Nelson, right around there. He's on the upswing. Again, he did a lot of damage with Jennings out. But in that offense, you can't go wrong.
A couple other guys I want to mention that round out the top 20-ish. I'm not gonna list them all, but Dwayne Bowe. I'm sorry. He's played well for me in the past. He's got a special spot in my heart.
2 straight 1,100-yard years of those touchdowns fell off last year.
Julio Jones, Brandon Marshall, they're down at the tail end of my top 20. Percy Harvin from the Vikings, if they can get anybody to throw him the ball and he can get rid of those headache issues.
He's been more of a headache for his owners.
But if he can get on the field, I think he's got a chance to be a top 20 receiver.
Sure.
And then, don't forget Brandon Lloyd with the Patriots. He's done nothing but great things in the past.
He's reunited with Josh McDaniels, who coached him to great success with the Broncos 2 years ago.
And look at Tom Brady, the first year he gets with any new receiver, not named Chad Ochocinco. Their numbers go way up.
Sure.
Don't forget about Deshaun Jackson, Stevie Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
He was part of my triple threat receiving core with Johnson, Johnson, and Johnson last year
Nice.
on one of my teams. And, don't anybody forget about Demaryius Thomas down there with the Broncos.
Sure.
I think he's a perfect fit with that offense.
I like Eric Decker almost as much, but with Thomas, you've got a little more speed, a little more chance for the big play. I do like that. From as far as my guys go, I'm looking at Victor Cruz. Obviously, he's not going to score another 6 touchdowns from at least 50 yards this year. He had a lot of fluky plays last season, so you're going to see, I think, some production drop off a little. But no Mario Manningham this year, though, to steal some catches. Miles Austin, I like. Hamstring issues aside, he's good when he's out there. Steve Smith, huge resurgence with Cam Newton last year. Vincent Jackson, like you said, he's got new surroundings, got a big contract, he's got to live up to it. Josh Freeman has to bounce back from last season, but all the pieces are in place. You got a veteran tight end in Dallas Clark, and some pretty good young receivers that are good in spots. Mike Williams, the good one, and the thin one, and also you've got Aurelius Ben, and some guys are pretty solid to kind of help share the burden. After Vincent Jackson, Dwayne Bowe, same thing, pretty consistent the last 2 years in yards. Last year, I think the real culprit as far as his touchdowns falling off was the fact that you had Matt Castle out, and you had scrubs like Tyler Palko throwing the ball, and it really kind of hurt him as far as his touchdown grabs. He only had, I think, 4 or 5 last year. So, also though, like you said, Deshaun Jackson, one to watch. His value is going to be pretty low, I imagine, after people felt salty after last year's debacle, where he had the contract holdout, got in his own head, had a lot of drops. But again, some of that was symptomatic with the Michael Vick struggles. So, Jackson has a huge upside this year. So, now I guess we're going to talk a little tight ends.
Yeah, real quick before we wrap this one up, tight ends. We've already mentioned Gronkowski and Jimmy Graham.
Give you just a quick short list, because I think after the first 5 or 6, they all pretty much blend together.
Like I said, we've already mentioned Gronkowski and Jimmy Graham. Those are clearly the top 2 tight ends in the league. I think we got them kind of transposed. Mm-hmm. I'd much rather have Gronk. I think you'd have Graham.
Really, either way, flip a coin for me.
Gronk has a better chance of catching touchdowns. That's what he is. The red zone offense for the Patriots.
Okay.
After that, rounding out the top 5 tight ends, you got Vernon Davis, Antonio Gates, who is still a beast even in his advanced age.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the second best tight end to ever play the game.
Sure.
Then Jermichael Finley down there with the Packers. They use him in short yardage situation with the offense. He's going to get you 8, 10, maybe 12 touchdowns. Not a lot of yards, but out of your tight end, a lot of teams don't use the tight ends well anymore.
He's just a product of that incredible passing game.
And, don't anybody sour on Aaron Hernandez either. He doesn't get the touchdowns that Gronkowski does, but he does pick up a lot of yards.
He did have around 10 last year, but, again, he's really on the upswing. For me, I've got number 3, Antonio Gates, number 4, Vernon Davis. With Gates, I just look no further than the first month of last year when he was lighting up the league and leading everyone in touchdowns. I think there's potential for him even to do more this year if he stays healthy, because with Vincent Jackson gone, that passing game might be in flux, looking for a replacement. Robert Meacham has a lot to prove. I do like him as a sleeper, though, but Malcolm Floyd has been good in spots, so Gates probably the number 1 guy. Vernon Davis, last year in the playoffs, really showed he was the number 1 guy in that passing game. Can't stand Alex Smith. Really don't like the dearth of receivers that the Niners have with Manningham, Randy Moss, Michael Crabtree. Now you've got A.J. Jenkins from Illinois, the rookie. Really muddled passing game, but Alex Smith knows what side his bread is buttered. Vernon Davis just really blew up at the end of last year. Number 5, like you said, Jermichael Finley, really like him. Great product of the game, offense they've got there. Aaron Hernandez, I like him too. After Hernandez, I think you got guys like Tony Gonzalez, guys like that. Greg Olsen from the Panthers, I like. It really kind of blends in.
You got a lot of guys now. You got Witten with the Cowboys, who he's hit or miss.
He's kind of hurt right now, but yeah.
But you got Witten, you got Gonzalez. I like Brett Selleck with the Eagles. If the Eagles rebound and have a decent offensive year.
Well, I think they will.
And Fred Davis with the Redskins again. If Mike Shanahan comes in there and gets something going, he's got the potential to do good things.
Sure.
But it's really hit or miss. After you get out of the top 5 tight ends or so, it's really murky water.
I think you can really wait a little bit and pick one up because there's going to be some value to be had. There's just not a lot differentiating the rest of those guys. So I guess that wraps up our pass catchers, Dave.
And check us out tomorrow. We're gonna talk about some kickers and team defense.
You got it.